Hello, Audioholics. My name is Logan, and with me is Tyler. And that is the noise that Tyler makes. And welcome to Audioholics United. Hey, Tyler.
What's up, Logan? What can I
You
do
know,
for you, brah?
I just wanted to say how wonderful it is that we could come together and do something so beautiful as Audioholics United. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, son, come here.
Oh, well, here comes the sun.
Yeah.
It just
Because
because
you never give me money, bro.
you never give. Yeah. So if the clues weren't obvious enough, today we are going to be listening to Nickelback's newest album.
Feed the machine.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, is it bad that I know that?
Yeah, it is. I was just about to say that is very bad that you know that.
Speaking of Nickelback, did you see that Phil Labonte or whatever from All That Remains said that?
Yes, I saw that. That was amazing.
Nickelback albums.
Wait, what was it? It was
He was like, I thought about this so much, and I'm being completely serious. This is not a criticism to either Nickelback or Load and Reload, but James Hetfield could totally sing any Nickelback song and it would belong on that record. What do you mean that's not an insult? That is
very much an insult.
Saying
Like,
James
how do
Hetfield,
No, you have to pick a lane. You have to pick a lane. Are you going to be diplomatic or just say some bombshell? You can't just say a bombshell and then play the diplomacy card. Like,
well, he did.
I don't mean to step on anybody's toes or anything. I don't mean to offend anybody, but Hitler had some very good ideas. Just like, no offense to any Jewish groups or gay groups or anything, but I think Hitler had a few good ideas.
Nobody watches this podcast, and you're going to get quote mined. Like 30 years down the line, when you're like running for some lead position at Hershey Park, someone's going to bring up
Hershey Park? Is that how lowly you think of me? I'm going to fucking be the manager at Hershey Park?
Just kidding. Administrative assistant at Hershey
Park. Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah, there you go.
There was dude, like, Nick, you know how bad, like, there's bands that are bad, and then there are bands that are so bad that literally a debate arises on the Senate floor about whether they are good or not.
I love that is a thing that happened.
Like, okay, so in history, we have had Body Count being, like, referenced by the first Bush. We have Obama calling Kanye West a jackass. And we have two shithole senators from states that I don't even remember. One Democrat, one Republican. And the Democrat was just...
One of them's probably Omaha.
Huh?
It said one of them's probably Omaha.
I don't know. But, like, they were, like, talking... I think they were talking about, like, some infrastructure plan. You know what? Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Just...
Did you not get the joke, bro?
I don't get it.
Omaha's a city.
I mean, like, yeah, it could have been... I don't remember if it was House of Representatives or Senate. I don't fucking
know. Anyway... So we're listening to Abbey Road today by the Beatles, by the Beatles.
Beatles? One of the worst bands to ever exist, systematically.
Honestly, like, we all know that they're worse than the Shags. Let's just be honest.
Obviously. I mean, Frank Zappa was such a visionary.
I mean, he's...
So for those who don't know, this episode actually was not properly saved, unfortunately, because Zoom screwed up. But we actually recorded an episode on the Shags album What was that
last
called?
week.
Uh,
The philosophy of the world.
Philosophy of life. Yeah.
The world, not life.
And the philosophy of the world. And like, I wish I of all the episodes, that was the one I think I was most proud of because I tore into that album.
You did.
Like, and we were talking about Pitchfork, which we are trying to make a tradition of like going through like the Pitchfork review. In fact,
I'm pulling it up now.
yeah, the one of the Shags or the Abbey Road?
Abbey Road.
Okay, we'll do that at the end. Just look through it and see if there's anything noteworthy to say. But they were, I can't even. Oh, they were talking about like the raw genius of what is widely considered to be one of the worst albums of all time. And it was like misunderstood. And they gave it like an 8 out of 10 or something crazy like that.
They gave it an 8.6 out of 10.
Yeah, they gave it an 8.6. To be fair, they gave Abbey Road a 10 out of 10, which they
literally they said this in the article for the review of the Shags. If you don't like it, it's just because you don't understand it.
That's what it was. Yes, that was so bad. There's pretension, and then there's pitchfork. Pitchfork should just be an adjective.
You've been pitchforked.
No, it should just be like a synonym for smugness.
You are so pitchfork.
Like, no. It's sort of like you see like some rich person on like CNN talking about like, well, the coronavirus is affecting my Swiss bank account and I am losing $1 million a day. Like, dude, you're just so pitchfork.
I don't really understand. Like, I'm reading the Pitchfork article, and they gave it a 10 out of 10, but, like, halfway through the article, they're talking about how they, like, skip half the album.
Wow, really? Well, we're gonna have to send that to me, and I will,
You will cry.
I will, pull it up on stream later. One last thing before we start the album. I just have to show something that I noticed. I only noticed this when we first started, but like just before we started the show. So I was searching for the Beatles' Abbey Road on
oh God, here it comes.
on Spotify. And so there's here comes. We need like theme song music because I don't know, who do you think rants more on this show?
Honestly, it's probably 50-50.
Yeah, I would say about that too. But like whenever one of us rants, we need like.
Did this album come out in '69? Fuck yes.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, I will get into like kind of the creation of this because I am a Beatles fan, so I know like a lot of Beatles trivia and things like that.
Fucking nerd.
Okay.
Nerd.
Turn to the nerds. Okay, but like, so most of you should know what the Beatles' White Album looks like. If not,
looks like semen.
It looks like an album that is
made of semen.
No, white. So
you're saying semen isn't white? You should get that checked out, bro.
Well, it's a serious medical condition. It's actually red, but
this looks like Baroness.
Yeah, but no, it was so it's just a plain white album. It's actually not technically called the White Album. It's just the Beatles self-titled, but colloquially, it's called the White Album. This is not white.
I mean, it is white.
Yeah, but it's not like fully white. You had one job. Make a solid.
It's faded black, so it's gray. white and gray. Gray is like a shade of white.
Yeah, but like there's like pictures on it.
Yeah, and they're gray.
There's not pictures on the full thing. It's like you had one job: make a white album.
And then
You
go
couldn't
back
make-
in the USSR.
You had one job: do a white album. You couldn't do a white album.
I'm
I'm
taking the piss out of you, bro.
no. This is
Rob.
a travesty. This is a travesty.
It's a pitchfork.
Yeah. You know what? Yes, it is.
Pitchfork is just everything. It's a noun, it's a verb, it's an adjective.
Pitchfork is the embodiment of
Transcendent.
everything unjust in the world.
It isn't just a word, it's a symbol.
It is. No, those who do not understand how bad Pitchfork is are just too stupid to understand the genius of everything else compared to it.
You know what's funny? I actually used to read Pitchfork.
Unironically, like
Unironically.
I didn't even really read. I didn't even really know about Pitchfork. I knew like they kind of had a reputation until was it the Song Critic or
Critic.
Croc Critic or Crash Thompson? I couldn't remember if it was Become the Night or Crash Thompson. One of them did like a top 10 like worst Pitchfork reviews, and I'm like, are these guys like real? People take this shit seriously?
I honestly just like used to read it like I read Consequence of Sound or something. Like if an album came out and it was on Pitchfork, I'd be like,
Fair
okay,
enough.
I'll read it.
Fair enough.
Like,
But,
I never knew that they gave Tool like what was it, like a 4 out of 10, a 2 out of 10 or something.
look, like it's look. Like if you're a critic, it's okay to be wrong. Like fucking Siskel and Ebert are like the most. Siskel and Ebert are like the most prominent critics of all time. If you think of critic, you usually think of Siskel and Ebert. They were wrong about so much shit. They didn't like Silence of the Lambs. They didn't like Scarface. They didn't like a whole bunch of really popular movies that have like.
Don't even know who they are.
Well, basically, they are just the biggest film critics of all time.
I don't really care about criticism.
Yeah, that's all you really need to know about them. But like when you're wrong and your reason for being wrong is stupid, and not only stupid, just filled with such smug, like pedestal, like just smug, like stump speaking. You know what I mean? Like just
Stump speaking?
You know what I mean? Just like
it's like if you're an amputee and your stump just starts talking. That's what Pitchfork's like.
yeah, exactly. And it's just as ugly. All right.
It sprouts a nose, but nothing else. Just a nose.
Yeah, just so we can smell how full of shit it really is.
Jesus Christ. Let's get into this album.
But other than that, Pitchfork is actually really lovely.
Yeah.
All right.
And then we can get into why I don't really like critics. Okay, we're going to listen to Come Together. That's the first
all right.
song.
All right. So what before we begin, I would just like to say my usual spiel. There will be a time code as to where this album starts in the description.
Oh, yeah, I should probably say I'm listening to the 2009 remaster.
Oh, I'm
you can
listening.
Probably find more than one on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm listening to the 2019 remaster, which like.
Oh, should I change what I'm listening to then?
It's the same thing, I think. The only thing is that like the later one is just mastered better, and it has extra things that we aren't going to cover anyway. Our thing is going to end with Her Majesty, like the normal vinyl record would.
Well, let me.
I have the record on vinyl. I should have shown it off.
Just so like we can talk about the same thing. I'm gonna get to the 2019 version.
All right. It's just right at the very top.
I got it.
So my usual spiel, the link to the album on YouTube will be in the description below. I would personally recommend turning on any kind of ad blocking software so that you can listen along with us. without like ad interruptions, because we aren't going to have ad interruptions. We aren't monetized, and even if we were, we still wouldn't be monetized.
Pretty much.
Right. So without further ado, 5, 4, 3, 2, and go.
Okay. So let's start by saying that I hate this song. I really don't like this song at all. I know it's like a classic song. Everybody knows it. Whatever. I work in a gas station and I hear this fucking song 15 times a day, and it's fucking annoying.
I mean, it's a classic. I mean, like, it's the Beatles. All their songs are like overplayed. You know what I mean?
Okay, but it's not just that it's overplayed. It's just I don't think this is a particularly good song. I mean,
it's pretty like, okay, objectively, it's really unique. Like, can you think of a song that sounds even remotely close to this apart from just other covers of this song?
What, with like Chuzz and Snaps and stuff like that?
By the way, first bit of Beatles trivia, he's actually whispering "shoot me," which is,
really?
I believe, a reference to heroin. But yeah, like you only hear like you only hear like "shoo," like you only hear like the first part because it's so buried in the mix. You have to really listen for it.
I guess I can kind of hear it.
Yeah, you have to really have an acute sense. I imagine, like, with this new mastering, I actually haven't heard this new remaster of the album yet. Sounds really clean.
It is really clean. All right, so back to what we were talking about earlier, though. So critics. All right,
I think critics are just generally, like, critics, I don't know, I think I don't know what the problem, but why critics are wrong so often. I think it's just like maybe that like I think maybe it's just they're biased. They have like their own individual likes, and they don't really know entirely how to be objective.
Yeah, I mean,
like, is this like, I don't want to know. I mean, I do want to know their opinions, but I want to more so know, like, is this a good movie? Is this a good song? Objectively speaking, like, if I were, like, that's what I try to do. Like, I was listening to Gojira a few podcasts ago, and I don't really like Gojira. I don't really like metalcore as a whole. But I was really I was trying to be objective with it. And objectively, I think I actually gave it a 10 out of 10. I thought it was perfect. I could not think of a single thing they did wrong with it. Now, I mean, like, maybe if I were exposed more to metalcore, I might say that it's lower. Or I might even, like, have a higher appreciation for it and say it's even better than I thought it was. And, like, you know, like that perfection, like, actually is even greater than I thought. You know what I mean? But I don't think they know how to be objective. I think they kind of just go based off of what they personally want to see. And, you know, like my tastes are obviously not the same as Tyler's.
Yeah.
An interesting thing about this song that I only really noticed before we started with the podcast, it says, one of the lines is Coca-Cola he sips. It, like, made me think of, like, so have you ever heard the song Lola by the Kinks?
Yeah.
The controversy behind that song was that there was a line that says, like, her lips tasted like Coca-Cola. And that was actually banned on the BBC because I guess BBC Radio had some weird draconian law about, like, you couldn't make reference to a brand or something like that. So they had to re-release it on a single as Cherry Cola. instead of Coca-Cola. My question is, why didn't the Beatles have to do that?
They're the fucking Beatles, dude.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I kind of understand that viewpoint, but I think it's impossible to be truly objective. Anyone.
Yeah,
It
I
doesn't
mean, like,
matter
I tried to
in
be, though.
journalism or in criticism. It's impossible. So I think it's less, is something objectively good, and more, is it to my tastes when I look at critics. So I read sites that more often than not agree with me. So if they rate something good, I know I'll probably like it. That's why I follow critics like Jeremy Johns on YouTube, you know?
Yeah, like I guess I would take like Metal Sucks or Loudwire's opinion on metal more seriously than like, Rolling
Pitchfork.
Stone magazine, which is just a more general all-purpose music. Well, that music, but now it's just like current events and pop culture and things like that as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, there's like I never noticed that organ in the background. This mix is so clean that there's instruments I didn't even know were in the mix.
Yeah, I like the instrumental variety. I like it a
Yeah.
lot.
I'm not entirely sure about. I can't remember. I've heard conflicting things. Either this song was a love letter to Eric Clapton's wife at the time, or Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, which is Eric Clapton's band, was a love letter to George Harrison's wife. It was like one of
Either
the
way.
two. I think it was.
Both great songs.
Yeah. I will say though that George Harrison's wife did end up divorcing George Harrison and married Eric Clapton for a while and then divorced him.
Oh, wow.
But that marriage did last a relatively long time, about 20 years. This album, actually, I take it back. This isn't a remaster. It's actually a remixing of the album.
I've heard this song a lot too, but I actually think this is a really good song.
It is. I think Eric Clapton might. Wait, no, never mind. I was gonna say Eric Clapton plays on this one. That's "While My Guitar Gently Weeps."
Yeah,
I think George Harrison did the guitar on that one. He wrote the song.
I absolutely love Eric Clapton.
Yeah. All right, we are on Maxwell Silverhammer now. I don't even need to look at this track listing. I've listened to this album so many times. It's just burned into my soul. This album, it is the 14th best Rolling Stones, the 14th best album on the Rolling Stones Top 500. I've actually been listening to that lately. Pitchfork, of course, gave it a 10 out of 10. Most people would say if it's not their favorite Beatles album, it's at least a very good Beatles album. I have it on vinyl. I could have just... I probably should have showed it off, but yeah.
George Harrison wrote "While My Guitar Gently Weeps," but Eric Clapton actually overdubbed the lead guitar part.
Okay. Well, yeah, I know George Harrison wrote it, but I'm saying, like, I think, like, Eric Clapton had a guitar solo in it.
Yeah, he played on it. I think he played through the whole thing.
Oh, really? I thought it was just that, like, wah-wah guitar solo.
I don't know. Just going off of Wikipedia. Anyway, you were saying?
I was just saying, like, I have this on vinyl. I probably should have shown it off. Something I didn't realize, and I don't think a lot of other people would have realized this as well. The original album cover actually has, like, this sort of pinkish tinge to it. And they kind of fixed that in later issues of the album. The only reason I even know that is because within my vinyl collection, I had the original 1969 version and like a later remaster. It wasn't like 180 gram. It was like somewhere in the mid 2000s they remastered it. And they like it shows how much they like touch up the album art on these remasters and remixes. Like, they don't just mess with the music, they mess with everything. They make it look modern. They make it look like a modern album. And, you know, I actually, so one of the bigger controversies with this album is actually its album cover. For those who don't know, if you look at the album cover, it is all four of the Beatles going on Abbey Road, but Paul McCartney is barefoot. And a lot of conspiracy theorists over the past several decades use that as like a sign to like kind of fan the flames of like the Paul McCartney has actually been dead since the 60s rumor. I could argue that he's been brain dead since the 60s, but that's neither here nor there. And it literally just came out like maybe about a year or two ago why it actually was that way. And my understanding, we are on Oh Darling, by the way.
Damn, that was instantaneous.
Like I said, I know this album in the back of my soul. No,
I've heard this song a lot too.
Yeah. He's heard a lot of these songs, I think, but I don't think
Like,
as a coherent
I didn't know that they were the Beatles.
Oh.
So I've only actually heard a few Beatles albums, to the surprise of some of you, I'm sure. I'm not really a huge fan of the Beatles, and there's a few reasons for that. I'm kind of a fan of consistency in bands that I listen to, and the Beatles has none of it. There's no consistency with the Beatles album, or the band in general. They were a boy band for how many albums, and then they just flipped into whatever the fuck they are now, and like ballad.
No.
Like it's hard to find a sound with the Beatles, and that's something good for some people, and it means that there's stuff I like, but I can't say I like everything the Beatles does, or even the majority of it, just some of it. Because
that's a legitimate I'm sorry, what?
No, I was done.
No, that's a valid point, I think. I don't agree with it, but I would say my argument is that means that there's something for everyone. Like, if you like songs like if you want to like listen to like simple love songs, which actually rock pretty hard if you think about it.
Singing right now.
I think that's Paul McCartney. I've gotten a little bit better at like telling the difference between the different beats. No, that might be. I don't know if it's Lennon or McCartney.
I couldn't tell.
I'm getting a little bit better at telling the difference between them, but yeah, I like the counterpoint, I think, to what you're saying is that means that they have variety. Like, if you like kind of boy band music, you can like the Beatles. If you like kind of psychedelic, more experimental music, listen to their later catalog. If you like, really heavy music, listen to Helter Skelter. That arguably created metal. I contribute that variety to their long-lasting, near-universal appeal.
Yeah, but I think that's to the detriment of the band as a whole. There may be something for everyone, but nobody loves everything. That's the problem. Like, you can go into a record like The Way of All Flesh by Gojira. I love every single song on that record. I don't love every single song on this album. I don't love every single song on the White Album. And if I listen to the rest of the discography of the Beatles, I'm sure it would be the same with every album. I'm sure that's true of everybody.
It could just be my nostalgia, because I've said before, I'm pretty sure I've said before on this podcast, the Beatles are the first band that I ever actually listened to. I've listened to them ever since I was about 3 years old. We had a greatest hits, the Blue Album, it's often called. But it's 1967 to 1970.
Tasty.
Yeah. We are on Octopus's Garden now, by the way.
My favorite song so far, instantly.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have done this podcast with you because I'm just nerding the fuck out over the Beatles.
That's fine. Gives us something to talk about.
I was like in the middle of a tangent like 5 minutes ago. Anyway, but Paul McCartney actually came out. Was it Paul McCartney or like somebody who was like photographing for the album came out and basically said like, I'm just gonna assume it was Paul McCartney so I can do like the terrible British accent. Oh, it was really hot, so I just took off my sandals and walked barefoot. So, confirmed, Paul McCartney is not dead. He's just really, 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 really weird.
That was a bit silly.
No, we can't be found. This was Ringo. This is Ringo Starr singing. He many decades later just turned this song into a children's book, and it sold pretty well. Apparently, he just wanted to basically write a children's song, and he did it.
God, this is some tasty shit.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like it's a kid's song. It's meant to be a children's song, but
that's why I like it the most.
yeah, it's like juvenile, but all at the same time really complex. That's what I'm saying. Is like even if you don't like anything by the Beatles, even if you don't like something by the Beatles, most of the time you can say objectively it's good.
Oh yeah, most of the time. Come Together, not so much. Fuck
I
that
think
song.
objectively that is a good song, just kind of
Fuck that song.
overplayed. I think it's just kind of overplayed. Like, have you ever heard something like that song before?
Uniqueness doesn't always mean good. I'm sure if I took a shit on a toilet and recorded it, you probably never heard a song like that before.
Well, I mean, you could call it
good.
avant-garde music and people would still buy it.
Yeah, probably.
You know, I've kind of like, over the past like few days, I've been kind of like, you know, obviously I've been bored as hell because, you know, I don't know if you heard about this. There's like some pandemic or pandemonium, something like that going on.
Something. I think it's called Covarian 18 or something like that.
Something like I don't know, but I'm sure whatever its real name is, we probably couldn't say it because we would lose the monetization we don't have. By the way, to interrupt for a second, we are on. I actually have to look at the song. We Are You. I Want You. She's So Heavy. I thought that was the name of the song, but I had to check to make sure. That's like the only song I had to check.
Is this about like somebody loving a fat chick?
No, I think it's basically just a sex song. Like
but
heavy.
It's called She's So Heavy.
I think it's basically like hot and heavy.
I want you so bad.
Wait for the fucking break of this song. It's fucking amazing. Oh my god, this
is
mix.
A 7-minute song.
Yeah, it's really long.
Jesus.
It ends the first side of the record. And the way that it ends is.
What's the last song on the album?
Her Majesty.
Gotcha.
That's just a few seconds, actually. It's kind of like one of the first. It's kind of just one. It might actually be like, as far as I'm aware, the first ever hidden track on an album. Unless you count like the Sgt. Pepper like boot loop thing that they had on like the British version. But
if we ever get records made of our music, we got to do some really stupid shit.
Yeah.
like we'll
maybe you shitting into the microphone.
As one song.
For example, we could have you just shitting in the microphone for the entire album.
Yeah, there you go.
Like just take some laxatives and just, you know, run through an entire day or few days or week of just you shitting and just turn that into an album. It'll still be better than Nickelback.
Oh, and Kiss.
Yeah. You know what's funny? So many people have shit on Nickelback, and it's still that joke is still not old, I don't think. I still
You
don't
know,
think it's uncool to make fun of Nickelback.
I think that Kiss is the old man's Nickelback.
I don't really love Kiss either, but I would not go that far.
I would go that far.
I'd say, I don't know. Like, there's definitely, like, old school classic rock bands that I think are overrated as hell. And Kiss is one of them.
Name another.
But, I would have to think for a very long time about that. Guns N' Roses, maybe.
You know, I just saw
Guns N' Roses.
a Become the Night video. And he was talking about how Guns N' Roses was basically voted, or not Become the Night, Jared Dines. Jared Dines was talking about how Guns N' Roses was basically voted the most overrated band in history.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Through like a community polling or
I
something.
wonder what the runners-up were.
Metallica, I think, was one of them.
Yeah, I definitely disagree with that.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get into that
At
eventually.
some point. I'm sure we'll do. I'm sure we're definitely gonna cover a Metallica album at some point.
I would say Iron Maiden is my controversial pick. I think Iron Maiden's very overrated. Are they good? Yes,
I don't think that they are overrated, but like they don't have a perfect track record, obviously.
I mean, people place Iron Maiden on like best bands of all time lists, and I don't agree with that. That's too much fellatio for me.
They had like what, okay, like their first two albums with Paul Di'Anno, I think controversially are better than Bruce Dickinson. Number of the Beast is one of my favorite albums. Peace of Mind I don't really care for too much, but that's just maybe my style. Power Slave is an absolute masterpiece. Somewhere in Time I don't really care for too much, but it's all right. Seventh Son is all right.
It's okay.
No Prayer for the Dying I don't think I ever actually listened to.
Meh. Pretty much everything after Seventh Son is meh, except for Fear of the Dark. Which I would say ranks up there with Power Slave.
I think like most people would agree to that as well. I've never listened to Brave New World either. I've heard that's actually pretty good. Really?
I hate it. I really don't like it, no.
That was like their first album. Like a lot of people kind of call it like a comeback album. And then like after that is when they went to shit. They started doing like all their froggy shit.
In my opinion. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like they have a really bad track record overall, and like they just don't have many masterpiece albums. I mean, they aren't a bad band; they're a good band. But are they best of all time? Come on.
I would not say they are like the best band of all time, but I think they at least deserve to be like maybe in the top 100 or top 50.
Okay, maybe top 100. But would you put them on the same pedestal as Judas Priest, Black Sabbath, Metallica? No.
I don't really know about that. I don't know about that.
Not in my opinion. I don't think they belong there.
I would say like Iron Maiden is not has as consistently good as those bands, but they have really good albums.
Yeah, a lot of bands have really good albums, and they aren't considered
but they have
best
like
of all time.
I think if you have like 3 or 4 good albums,
that instantly
maybe like 5 albums, that makes you like a decent enough hit machine.
I guess, but I don't know. I think Iron Maiden's just kind of lacking in that category. I think as far as their masterpieces are concerned, you have Power Slave, you have Killers, you have Fear of the Dark, maybe Peace of Mind. That's it. They're a band that's been around a long time. So,
yeah. Anyway, back to the Beatles. Bum, bum, bum. It's a really simple riff, but goddamn does it crunch.
Yeah. I mean, it's dark sounding. It's atmospheric. It's probably a good word for it.
Yeah.
I don't really like this song, though, if I'm being honest.
I mean, like, I kind of put it in the same realm as, like, Helter Skelter. Like, it's heavy, but it doesn't actually have substance.
I think Helter Skelter has substance.
No, it does. I mean, like, the actual lyrics don't.
Oh, well, yeah.
Like, I think, like, Paul McCartney basically said, like, oh, it's pretty much just nonsense.
But I don't really take any stock into lyrics.
I think it
Much
was like, oh
stock.
no, I think it was basically just like it's like there's no metaphors or anything. It's basically just about going up and down a slide. And the song just cuts off. That's how it ends on the vinyl. That ends side A.
Yeah, like, lyrics are important, but all they are it's not even the icing on the cake. It's like the decoration of the icing on the cake. That's how unimportant it is to the taste and pleasure of
I
the whole
think
cake,
lyrics
but it
give
is
a song.
nice.
I think
It gives a song a nice look, a nice theme, but it has nothing to do with how good it actually is. That's
I'm
my
not
opinion.
gonna say like it gives a song meaning, but like unless you're like Beethoven or something, it gives a song meaning.
Well, I mean, think about it this way. We were talking about Gojira earlier. Gojira has a lot of songs that are about environmentalism, okay?
But
Those
would they be
songs
about
also are good
environmentalism if
songs.
there wasn't lyrics?
Well, wait. So those songs are
By the
good
way,
songs.
before you get on your tangent, I have to point out we are on Here Comes the Sun.
Do.
Yeah.
So those songs are good songs. Even if they were in a foreign language and you couldn't understand the lyrics, it would still be good music. Now take all of those same lyrics and put them into music that sucks. Sure, the song is about environmentalism, but it's still a garbage song. You know? I
Okay,
don't
but
think the
would that
lyrics have
song
anything to do with the
if
substance
the
of the song.
lyrics are really good, does that make a shitty song slightly less shitty? I think I would say like there's songs like Bob Dylan is like the crowning example of this. Music I don't like as much. He can't sing at all, but a lot of people like Bob Dylan for his lyrical content. And
I would
solely
say
for his lyrical content.
I would say my earlier cake analogy is really apt. You know, like the inside of the cake can be actual dog shit. But if the icing for that matter can be actual dog shit. But if it's nice and appetizing looking, that's what the lyrics do to a song.
Okay, but I think the lyrics can add substance to it. I think that it's like
I disagree.
I think it's sort of like if you have like an absolute piece of shit album, like using the same cake dog shit analogy, you have an absolute dog shit cake, and the lyrics are sort of like adding like some sugar inside of the cake, which makes it dog shit, but tolerable dog shit. Or like adding salt on top of the dog shit.
That's
Salt
where
on
we
top of the dog
diverge
shit.
in opinion. I think the lyrics don't add any substance. I think it's literally aesthetics. It's just looks.
I'm trying to think of like
nice, but it
I
has
think
nothing to do
like
with whether or not it's good or sounds good or is enjoyable.
I think Bob Dylan is probably the best analogy. Someone who's like songs I don't love, but who really shines in lyrical content. And I think
here's
most
my
people
counterpoint. If all you care about is the lyrical content, don't listen to music. Music is audio based. It has nothing to do with language.
This song is called Because.
You have like really good poetic lyrics, read them. Don't listen to them. Listening to them goes into the realm of music, and if the music is garbage, then it doesn't matter how good the lyrics are.
I guess you're right. I would say like lyrics combined with melody.
Well, that's what singing is.
Yeah.
I mean,
like sing. Okay, so like lyrics mixed with singing, I think can make an album.
But it has to be good singing.
Yeah. Like, that's kind of like my argument, though, with musicals. A lot of musicals, anyway. Not all of them. But a lot of musicals, like, for example, I hate the movie Grease. But I own the sound. Yeah, but I own the soundtrack of it on vinyl because it has. I'm not even saying the soundtrack fully is really that good either. I just really like the Frankie Valli song.
Did you say we're on Because now?
Yes.
I didn't catch that. Okay.
Yes.
Just making sure.
And same thing with I'm trying to think there's movies I can think of that like this, and like a lot of songs too, a lot of musicals as well. The music doesn't actually add anything to the plot.
No, it doesn't.
Like same thing with Grease, same thing with like Saturday Night Fever, same thing with you know, a lot of famous musicals.
I would say music does add to the substance of a movie, though.
It can, but oftentimes it doesn't.
Like if
Oh
you
no
had
no
a
no
dog
okay
shit
okay
soundtrack,
okay
it doesn't
okay
matter
okay
how good
okay
the movie
okay okay
is.
okay. What I mean by that is like I'm talking about musicals. Like if you're talking about like scoring and things like that, like in like
Oh, and I mean,
obviously
even in musicals. Like
like
even in
like
musicals.
like if you have like a really dark scene, you should have like a really dark instrumental to complement that, and that adds more to the scene. I'm
Exactly. It's the
talking
same
more
with
about things.
musicals.
I'm talking more about things like Grease or The King and I, or even Mary Poppins, or a lot of like Disney.
I know.
Like The
I'm saying
Lion
it
King
can
is
ruin
like
a
maybe the
musical.
only exception I can think of right now.
Like if you had a super emotional song and like there's like I don't know pigs in the background going like ooh ah ooh ah ooh ah, it would ruin the musical. You know, like so the music is important, adds substance even to a musical. I mean,
We are
especially
on. We are on. You never give me your money.
especially for a musical, I'd say it's important because like a movie with a soundtrack scoring like. You can get away with a half subpar soundtrack in that category, but if a musical has a bad soundtrack, it's called a musical for a reason.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
music's absolutely essential to how good that is. I
Yeah,
mean, whether or not you like musicals is up to you. I don't like it because most of the time musicals sound the exact same to me. Like they all have the same melodies, the same types of lyrics. They jump
I would
between
say
people
like
predictably all the time. I'm just not a fan of that.
I think that musicals, and I'm speaking objectively, musicals very rarely actually fulfill their intended purpose.
I agree.
I think that most musicals have good music, and the plot kind of comes second. And in those cases, I would just say buy the soundtrack. If buy the soundtrack, stream the soundtrack, do
Okay, who's
whatever. If
singing
you,
right now?
I think Paul McCartney.
Okay.
This is the second side of this album, and this album I think is kind of coherent in a way, because like the first side is like mostly pop tunes, and then the second side, which starts with Here Comes the Sun, I think is where the album gets a little bit more experimental.
Yeah, I didn't really love the first side of the album, but maybe I'll start to like this side. So
Like
far, I am.
there's like a 3 or 4 track medley on at the very end of the album.
Anyway, you were saying?
No, I'm done.
Yeah, so like the whole point of this discussion was how important are lyrics to music. The other argument I would say is I mentioned earlier foreign music. I can enjoy foreign
Yeah.
music. You can enjoy foreign music.
Well,
90%
I
of people
mean,
can enjoy foreign music without understanding
to
lyrics.
play, I'll say this: to play devil's advocate, we were just listening to Octopus's Garden. It's a stupid song about an octopus's garden that's meant for children, and yet it arguably rocks harder than anything we've heard so far.
Yeah, I think. How's that playing devil's advocate? You're proving my point.
That's
Lyrics don't
I'm
matter.
playing like well, I mean, if we're debating, then I'm playing the devil's advocate, and you are the devil.
Why? You're agreeing with me. And also, the devil's advocate is the advocate of the devil, which means that we'd be in agreement anyway. So,
Tyler, okay, I'm saying that lyrics. My argument is that lyrics do add substance to music,
I
and
know.
to agree with you, to kind of add to your point of view, I am acknowledging that yes,
Oh, I
music
thought you were
can have
saying that to kind of
substance.
argue with me.
I'm saying that music can have lyric, music can have lyrics as a secondary thing and still be very substantive in other areas. I'm saying that bad music can be saved with decent lyrics. It goes the other way around.
I don't know about that. Like, okay, take Bob Dylan.
We are on Sun King now.
Yeah, he doesn't sing amazingly. He's not the most virtuoso of a guitarist, but I mean, he's competent. He doesn't make bad music.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying Bob Dylan is bad either. I'm just saying, like, his biggest strength, he won a Nobel Prize in literature, so his biggest strength is lyrics.
Right,
Plain
but
and
you
simple,
can't use Bob
objectively.
Dylan as an example of bad music being saved by lyrics then.
I mean,
can't
I
actually
guess
think of that of an
I
example.
can't really think of I can't really think of any kind of music that's generally bad with like good. I don't really know.
Exactly. And I mean, lack of example doesn't prove that you're wrong, but
Yeah. I mean,
I
I'm sure
would
I could
say it's a
probably, if
strong
I
evidence
really
against
like
it.
looked into my memory bank, I could probably pull out something, but I can't think of that right now.
I think if you truly had like dog shit music, it doesn't matter if you're spouting like Nietzsche, like it's bad. You know, like gold is dead. Would you listen to that? I wouldn't.
Um, I don't know. I don't know because I can't think of any time I've ever experienced that, so I don't have an answer.
What, me singing? You've experienced me singing many
No, I've
times.
experienced you singing. I've just never experienced a bad album with good lyrics.
Yeah.
So I can't really speak on behalf of that because that's just like foreign water for me. I've never heard that before.
Honestly, this is the best album of all time, or at least within top 15. I don't see it.
Like, at least with the instrumentals, like it's a really
It's
experimental
great.
album. It's good
It's great.
because of that variety that, you know what, you're
Yeah.
looking at the variety as a negative. I think most people would consider that a positive. Now, could someone
I'd say
say
it's a
that,
double-edged sword. It's both.
yeah, like, could some people say that, what? I think some people could say that the album is disjointed.
That's
But
what
I
I was going to
disagree.
say.
I disagree.
I think it does feel disjointed.
This song is Mean Mr. Mustard.
I mean, and beyond that, like, again, it's not a bad album at all. It's a really good album, maybe even a great album. Even if it was a 10 out of 10, though, would you seriously say best of all time? That's such a high bar, and I can think of plenty of albums I would say is better. Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. Off the top of my head, better album than Abbey Road.
Yeah, like my personal opinion, it's not like I agree with you 100%. This is an amazing 10 out of 10 album. I would not say it's like top 15 albums of all time. I would say like maybe I don't know, like
at least top 50.
Yeah.
But not top 15.
Maybe even
I
top,
think that's going too far.
Maybe even top 30. Maybe even top 20, but like, I don't know.
I could give it top 25. I would have to think about it more if we were going to go lower than that, but
yeah.
I mean,
like this is still one of my favorite albums of all time.
It's a great album, but it has drawbacks. Like we were talking about the variety. That's a positive and a negative. So you got to take off points for that. There's also a lot of really stupid shit in this album, like as far as I Want You, She's So Heavy, Here Comes the Sun. Like there's just some stupid shit in here that I don't think is good.
We are on Polythene Pam now, by the way.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying. We're there's actually 2 medleys. I totally forgot about that.
You were talking about the lyrics being important. I don't know if I'd say they're important, but I would definitely add them as something to talk about. And I think the lyrics in this album suck for the most part.
I think it's kind of a matter of opinion. I think, like,
You think "Here Comes the Sun" doo 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 is good lyrics?
I mean, it's a memorable phrase. Like, you know what I mean? It's good for pop, for what pop. The point of pop is to, you write a pop song the same way you write a jingle. It's not necessarily to be anything
Right, so it's
profound.
good for what it is, but is it like great? Is it really good? Or is it
Well,
just good for pop?
okay. So here's my opinion. Pop, by definition, implies popular, as in it has some sort of universal appeal. Like, not universal appeal, but widespread appeal. So I think that like I said, you write a pop song the same way you write a jingle. Barry Manilow, good example of that. He wrote pop songs and jingles. He wrote songs like Coca Cabana, I Write the Song, huge pop hits back in the day, but he also wrote many commercial jingles that we still use today. Like, he wrote the Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm is There jingle. He wrote the I'm Stuck on Band-Aid jingle. He wrote, so I mean, like, those two philosophies intertwine. The point of pop, by definition, is to sell a product and be memorable. And I think that the Beatles successfully do that. And because of their really good ability to sell a product, which in this case is themselves, and they do that by means of this album, I think that is how they get that widespread appeal, and why this album deserves to be within the top 20 albums of all time. I mean, me personally, without any objectivity, I would say it's at least in the top 10.
Okay, but anyone can come up with a memorable lyric.
Mm,
How does that
it's
make you
not.
worthy of being top 25 of all time?
I would say if you are not only memorable, but you've managed to stand the test of time for 40 plus years, that accounts for something. Like, children today, uh, for example, my friend's, or I'm sorry, my sister's friend, she has two younger daughters. They're like 3 and 4. They still listen to the Beatles. I listen to the Beatles. I was born in 1998. I listened to the Beatles, like I said, when I was 3 or 4. And I still listen to them. You know, there's no band that has universal appeal. I
True.
think the Beatles is the thing that comes the closest that I've ever seen that has universal appeal. There's like, I think even the people who swear up and down that they do not like the Beatles have to at least admit that they have good songs. We passed, by the way, through She Came Through the Bathroom Window, Golden's Lovers, and Carry That Weight. The next song will be The End and Her
I would
Majesty.
say that
I'm going through these songs at one time just so I can, because this is all part of a medley.
I would say that Beethoven, Mozart, like the classical composers, have more widespread appeal than the Beatles. Everybody's heard Moonlight Sonata. Everybody likes Moonlight Sonata.
I would put them in the same camp. Like obviously, the way that we judge that, of course, is 300 years from now, are we still going to be talking about the Beatles? And my argument is yes, we will.
Of course,
I think that we will be talking about the Beatles, and I think that
they're probably the most influential band of all time.
I think that historical scholars are going to be teaching classes about the Beatles and their lyrical content and the certain skills that they use, like the same way that we learn about Mozart and Bach and Beethoven, Rachmaninoff, Tchaikovsky, bands like classical artists like that. But will they have the same appeal? Will they have the same will they be as popular 300 years from now as they are now, or as they were 40 years ago? And I think that they will be. I think that the Beatles and Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Rachmaninoff are all comparable.
I mean, I agree to that.
I think that the Beatles have near universal appeal, and they probably will 400 years from now.
I agree to that. But would you not agree that all of the criticisms I laid against this album are valid?
I think it's just a state of mind. Whether you like, I look at your criticisms and I see them as good things. So I would not say that I would not say that those criticisms are objectively valid.
Okay, so let's start with the first one I laid upon it, the lyrical content. You yourself said it's good for pop.
Yeah.
You're defending it by default. Doesn't that mean it's objectively worse than some other things? Like Bob Dylan, for instance.
I guess they could be more profound and still have like the same hooks, but like, you know,
I mean, it's not even about
like,
being profound. It's about having stupid lyrics. There's
like,
a
you
lot
know,
of
for
stupid
example,
lyrics in here.
like, for example, like, you know, you can't have like a song that immediately comes to mind is War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Is that maybe as well known as the Beatles? No, but it's a really catchy hook and people still remember it.
Yeah, but those, like, think about I Want You, She's So Heavy. That song is filled of stupid lyrics, right?
Yeah.
We're not even talking about catchy pop lyrics, just stupid lyrics. And if it were any other band, if it were Nickelback, you'd agree with me. But because it's the Beatles, you're giving them a pass.
I think because they shine in other areas. Again, really catchy
other
hooks.
areas. So you agree that they lack in the lyrical category.
Yes.
Okay, let's move on to the next part. So we were talking about versatility.
Here is by the way, here's the hidden track. Like, the album actually originally did not list this track. You have like this really long silence, and then Her Majesty, which just cuts off at the very end.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
We got into so many tangents. I would love to have like talked more about the history of this album. There's so much to talk about with the Beatles, and there's so much to talk about.
I mean, we'll probably cover another Beatles album at some point.
We might have to, because like there's so. I mean, like the Beatles. Obviously, they're, like you said, they're one of the most influential albums of all bands of all time, and as a result, they are by far, even as compared to Bach, Mozart, probably more torn apart, studied, and just like more is known about the Beatles than any other band or artist ever, period. I think so.
Yeah, but back to what I was saying, like, you can agree that's a double-edged sword. If you are a jack of all trades, you are a master of nothing, and you are not universal. Like, I
Alexa,
may like something of yours, but I'm not going to like everything of yours. Somebody else is going to like something of theirs, but not everything, and like so on and so forth, because there is something there for everyone, but not everything there is for everyone. You know what I'm saying? There's just a small category of their catalog that appeals to everyone. The rest of it only appeals to certain people. Now, you grew up with the Beatles, so to you, it probably all appeals to you, but that's mostly nostalgia. If you were like me, who never listened to the Beatles until recently, you'd probably see where I was coming from a little bit better.
Yeah, I do, but I would say, like, universal appeal does not necessarily, you know, imply universal worship. Like, I'm not even going to say I worship the Beatles. I come relatively close. I don't think they've done a single bad album, in my opinion, except maybe Beatles for Sale, I think, was a little bit weaker.
I think their earlier stuff is maybe not bad, but not.
I still listen to it. I still listen to, like, Please Please Me, because even though it's, like, technically boy band stuff, like One Direction, the hooks are so catchy and memorable, and One Direction and Backstreet Boys could only dream of replicating that, and they never will, and they never have. But you know, like I honestly don't know why the Beatles are as good as they are. And am I biased? Absolutely. I can't even hide my bias anymore. I am a Beatles fan.
Yeah.
And, you know, naturally, if we're ranking the album, I'm just going to give it a 10 out of 10, just straight up. That's obvious. But, or I guess if we are talking about lyrical content, like maybe like a 9.5.
Honestly, I'm just trying to show that there are flaws with what the Beatles do. Everybody says like they're perfect. They're a 10 out of 10. They're amazing.
They aren't. Nothing is perfect. But I think that they have flaws. But would you say that they deserved the status that they have?
Yes. Oh, definitely. They're not overrated. No.
Yeah. Like there is a reason. Like the Beatles are the most, like you said, one of, if not
the most,
influential bands, artists, composers of all time. And they earned that status for a reason.
As much as I love and worship Black Sabbath, I would even put them above Black Sabbath.
Exactly. Because
quality of music and...
you know why? Because
just on a whole nother level.
Well, yeah, but you know why? Because Black Sabbath, where did they get their influence from?
The Beatles. Everybody did. Everybody. I mean, even today, assholes like me come on and listen to Abbey Road and try to pick it apart. Even I'm influenced by the Beatles, whether I want to be or not, because I'm influenced by people who are influenced by them.
And even if you aren't influenced by the Beatles, whatever band you like was.
Well, that's what I just said.
Yeah. Like
so
without,
you are one way or the other influenced by the Beatles, and if the Beatles didn't exist, then neither would you.
Yeah, like without the Beatles, objectively, rock and roll would be a completely different thing. What would it be? I don't know. Would it maybe be? I remember seeing someone say they don't like the Beatles because like they actually softened music. I disagree with that. Like, you know what I mean? Like rock and roll was
more ballad-like.
I guess that's what they were saying. I like the more I think about that, the more I just disagree with it. But like, I guess that's like, like you know, like the only people who say that are people who are just casual fans and haven't heard things like Helter Skelter, Yarra Blues, which whatever your opinions are on those songs, those are the bedrocks for, if not metal, heavy music.
Yeah. The Beatles were just widely influential, just for every genre.
Yeah.
Because they were so... It wasn't just that they tried everything. They were great at everything. That's why they have that universal appeal. They were great at being heavy. They were great at doing blues. They were great at just everything.
Yeah.
Psychedelics.
All right. So, objectively speaking, what is your opinion on the album?
10 out of 10, easily.
Okay. I gave it a 9.5 just based off of what you said about the lyrics. But like...
Yeah, but like I myself said lyrics don't mean anything, so that's why I give
Well, that's why I only gave it like half a tick.
I wouldn't even say lyrics really deserve that. I mean, like some albums, the lyrics are just so good that you have to talk about them. I mean, think about a Nightwish album. The lyrics are always poetic genius, or almost always, on a Nightwish album. So you got to talk about it, but really, you're there for the music.
Yeah.
Like I was saying earlier. So,
I would say that, you know what, like in my personal opinion, I would give it a 10 out of 10. I was just trying to be objective.
In my personal opinion, it'd probably be somewhere around a 4.
I guess I understand that, but, you know,
like, objectively, it is a 10 out of 10 album, but I say 4 because, like, if we're talking...
You are never going to listen to it again, you think?
Exactly. We're talking about whether or not I'm likely to listen to it again, and there's only maybe 1-2 songs on this album that I will come back to. I like the White Album way more.
All right. I actually didn't love the White Album. I mean, obviously, it's an amazing album. It's just not as good as Abbey Road.
There's Guitar Gently Weeps.
I would say my problem with the Beatles is kind of your problem with Abbey Road. It kind of feels disjointed at times, and that's just, a symptom of being a double album. There's very few double albums that really are captivating the whole way through. I think the only one I can think of right off the top of my head that I literally just got on vinyl is John Legend and Roots. It's kind of like this soul, Wake Up. It's kind of this soul R&B gospel hybrid, and it's really, really good. It's a double album, though, and it's about an hour long, but I think it will captivate, it will grab your attention for that entire album.
So he's pulled up the Pitchfork article, and we're going to talk about that now.
All right. You have the privileges.
Here, let me request them. There we go.
It's time to roast the Pitchfork review.
Now, I read through this, and like half of it is basically just Beatles history.
Yeah, fair enough.
Talking about before the album, during the album. We can just skip past that.
I would have gone into that if we hadn't gone into so many tangents.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically, this was actually
what I was talking about earlier. So, you've never understood the attraction of John Lennon's I Want You, She's So Heavy, and sometimes find yourself skipping ahead to George Harrison's second side lead off, Here Comes the Sun. It's that part right there. And I was like, well, then why'd you give it a 10 out of 10?
Why'd you give it a 10 out of 10? Like, I gave it a 9.5 objectively just for lyrical content, but like you're giving it a 10. I think like Pitchfork obviously doesn't care about the majority opinion. They've bucked it so many times. So like, why are they caving it? You know what?
No, wait. We didn't read the last sentence of the previous article. There's not a duff note on the damn thing. This applies even if, like me, you've never quite understood. So he's saying, like, even though you don't personally like the song's still amazing.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah,
so
I guess we misunderstood what they were saying.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. Is there anything really like interesting to say?
For once, I don't really have much problems with this Pitchfork article. I don't think I've
Yeah,
said
I mean,
that in
like,
a while.
I'm sure they're, broken clock is right twice a day.
Yeah, but if you want to shit on Pitchfork, you want to bring up that Shags review.
All right, yeah, let's do it.
We didn't get to do it since the last.
Yeah,
podcast.
you know what? Yeah, let's do it. They owe us a show. We owe them. We owe them a show.
Do you want to look it up or should I do it?
Okay, I'll do it.
All right. By the way, did you notice it's only 11?
Yeah.
We got through that a lot faster than I thought we would.
Yeah. I think this is.
Here it is.
Is this it?
Yep, this is it.
Oh, I don't see like the little rating in the. Oh, now I do.
It's over here.
Yeah, it's like covered by the thing.
Best new reissue.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Pitchfork?
Okay, let's get to the meat and potatoes of this.
So, I mean, we don't want to really tell the whole story again, but if you don't know it, I think we should link that video in the description.
Yeah.
For this part.
All right, fair enough. I'll just basically give a rundown. Basically, this entire album was literally conceived of by an archaic prophecy. I'm not even joking. And like the people, it's widely considered to be one of the worst albums of all time, and it's because it absolutely is. They did not know how to write instruments. Nobody ever taught them. They were just expected to figure them out. They were children as well. They were like, I think, under the age of 15. Their father basically made them become pop stars, even though they didn't want to be, and they didn't have any major interest in music at the time. you know, they couldn't sing, they couldn't write lyrics, they couldn't really do anything because their entire band was quite literally founded on a wing and a prayer.
This article
All right.
is not as funny as I remember it being.
Where was the one part, though?
I'm looking for it. I think it was further towards the downside.
Yeah, I kind of remember that too.
Oh, wait, here we go.
Yeah,
The Shag's introspection is best explored on Things I Wonder and Why Do I... The introspection of, like, 10-year-old girls.
Yeah, exactly.
The deep philosophical depth of my...
Like, literally, I could, like, literally, Tyler, you could, like, find your younger sister's diary and find more substance in it than...
Seriously.
Yeah.
We were talking about good lyrics saving bad music. I mean, even if these lyrics were good, oh, the music is like nails on a chalkboard, man.
Like, you know, I was talking about it's fun. I can't think of a single time I've heard bad music accompanied by good lyrics. I've also never heard bad music accompanied by bad everything else. Literally, I don't think there is a... Yeah, exactly. There's literally not one good thing about that album. And when we did that video, I gave it a 0 out of 10. Or no, I think I gave it like I think I gave it a 0.5 just because it actually can play audio. It reminds me.
The Shags were quickly embraced by the exact opposite audience Austin desired, the long-haired avant-garde intellectuals.
So my rebuttal. Let me just get on their level. Let me stroke my beard a little bit to be a little bit of a nice guy.
Oh wait, here's the part.
You suck.
Contemporary listeners and critics will never identify with the Shags because their words are not for us. We just don't understand them, Logan. Our minds are too narrow. We will never be able to understand the pure depth and substance of the Shags' philosophy of the world.
Guys, that was genuine.
Best album ever made.
That was genuine. Okay, that same reaction happened when we first did the album, and that was genuine. I like heard that all over again. I'm like, what the fuck do I even say to that? That's just wrong. Like, it's very rare. I don't think I would never say somebody's opinion is wrong. Their opinion is objectively wrong.
Yeah, this entire article is just shit. Like,
it's just wrong. Everything about this album.
You know what I would love? I would love the Shags to reunite and recreate this album with actual musical knowledge, since they're all adults now.
But then that would
happen, but that'd be so.
That would never happen because like
they would piss off all the long-haired avant-garde.
Exactly.
Intellectuals.
What, did Kurt Cobain rise from the grave and write this?
No, it was Frank Zappa.
Yeah, okay, so Frank Zappa actually said this piece of shit album is better than the Beatles, and Kurt Cobain said it's his top 10 favorite albums of all time.
Top 5, actually.
Was it top 5? Oh my god. Is Metal Machine by Lou Reed on that list as well?
Oh my god. Look when this fucking album was made.
What? 68, 69?
Oh, please tell me. Please tell me.
What is this? Was it? No, it wasn't. Wait. Just look at the Wikipedia article.
Please tell me.
Did it come out?
1969, the same year of Abbey Road.
Exactly. So you could have listened to Abbey Road You could have listened to Abbey Road, or you could have listened to the Shags.
You know the date Abbey
Guys.
Road came out, you fucking nerd?
I don't know the day.
You don't know the day? Wow. Fake
I
Beatles
don't know
fan
the
right
exact day that it came out. It was actually the last album recorded, but the second to last album released.
What? How does that make sense?
Well, basically, their last album released, Let It Be, came out in 1970.
So
And that
this
was,
album
like,
came
mostly,
out
like...
in September, and Philosophy
Okay.
World came out in March. So actually, the Shags predated the Beatles in '69.
Well, you still could have listened to, like, a million other... I mean, it's 1969. That's, like, the universal year of good music.
Oh God! Like this is just hilarious. The worst album of all time was released in '69.
And
Nice.
so was arguably the best album.
Or one of the best, anyway.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay, should we end it on that note?
I can't really see any other way to end this.
All right, Audioholics. This has been our horrible, horrible takes on the Shags because obviously they're the best band of all time.
Yes. Thank you for listening to this album by the Shags.
That was definitely Shabby Road by the Shags.
Shabby. I hate you. All right. Peace in the Middle East.
Boom. Oh my God.
We are actually crabs.
Are we still recording?
Yeah. No, we
We gotta cut like the end of this out now.
yeah.